What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so I've got some more activist judge activity going on, folks. And you gotta love it, right? Check this out. Judge blocks administration from enforcing anti-diversity and anti-transgender executive order. I don't think that the executive order says anything about anti-diversity or anti-transgender. I think it's just against DEI because DEI is racist. As a matter of fact. And, people, the transgender people, unfortunately, are suffering. And they need help. They don't need affirmation. That's just my opinion. I'm not a doctor, so don't take my word for that. That's just my opinion. By the way, YouTube. Let's get into this thing. A federal judge in California has blocked the Trump administration from enforcing anti-diversity and anti-transgender executive orders and grant funding requirements that LGBTQ plus organizations say are unconstitutional. Now, what can you derive from that paragraph right there? Hang on just a second. You have a constitutional right to money. That's what they're trying to say with that. They have a constitutional right to a grant or a loan from the federal government because I have no idea why, but that's what they're saying. That is insane. That is outright insane. They are mad because Donald Trump does not want to fund the far left-wing ideologically driven rot that is coming from the Democratic Party. He says, no way, sorry, you can go bye-bye. And they're like, it's unconstitutional because we don't want to fund your nonsense? Are you kidding me? Clearly, they're not kidding. U.S. District Judge John Tiger said Monday that the federal government cannot force recipients to halt programs that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion or acknowledge the existence of transgender people in order to receive grant funding. Is that so? Deny the existence of transgender people? See, this is one of those delusional rantings, kind of like Justice Sotomayor has these ravings of a lunatic, right? That's what this is. Who's denying the existence of any transgender person? As a matter of fact, conservatives want to help these people. As a matter of fact, we don't want anybody to suffer. That's kind of part of being a Christian is you don't want to see your neighbors suffer. And, when people affirm delusions, we see that as suffering. When you claim to be a different gender, we see that as, hang on, there's something wrong, something tragically went wrong in their life. How can we help? And then these people put this ideological rot in our face and expect us not to get mad, expect us just to accept it for what it is and not push back, to deny our beliefs. That's what they want you to do. Celebrate pride, for crying out loud. Do you hear yourselves? This is my message to all you people. Do you hear yourselves? Celebrate sin? Really? Are you kidding me? No. Just no. That's it. The order will remain in effect while the legal case continues, although government lawyers will likely appeal. Oh yeah, they're definitely going to appeal. The funding provisions reflect an effort to censor constitutionally protected speech and services promoting DEI and recognizing the existence of transgender individuals, Tiger wrote. That is not true. That is not true at all. They are not trying to censor anything. They are denying them money. See, this is what I mean by these activist judges. You cannot force the government to give you money. That's not how the government works, by the way. Although, in a shocking irony here, the government can force you to give them money. That just doesn't work in reverse, although I might have to agree it should. I'm just saying. He went on to say the executive branch must still be bound by the Constitution in shaping its agenda, and that even in the context of federal subsidies, it cannot weaponize congressionally appropriated funds to single out protected communities for disfavored treatment or suppress ideas that it does not like or has deemed dangerous. So, okay, that might sound just run-of-the-mill rantings right there, right? What does that say to you? What does that say to you guys? Let me know down in the comments before I spill the beans. Go ahead, of course, you're just going to wait. I know. What does that say? So, basically, I think we would all agree that if we were to have an uprising of Nazism in this country, that would be deemed dangerous, right? If we would have an uprising of radical Islamism, don't you think that would be a bit dangerous? This judge is basically saying that the government has to fund these people. Nazis, for crying out loud. Radical Islamism. That is what this judge is saying with that. Let me read it again for you guys. He went on to say that the executive branch must still be bound by the Constitution in shaping its agenda, and that even in the context of federal subsidies, it cannot weaponize congressionally appropriated funds to single out protected communities for disfavored treatment or suppress ideas that it does not like or has deemed dangerous. That is insane right there. So, basically, if you get a grant from the government and then all of a sudden you turn to radical Islam, the government must be forced to go through with giving you that money, even though you're a terrorist, essentially. That is insane to me. The plaintiffs include health centers, LGBTQ plus services groups, and the Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, Transgender Historical Society, which is a mouthful. All receive federal funding and say they cannot complete their missions by following the president's executive orders. Yeah, you know what? You can do it without federal funding. You can do whatever you want. Donald Trump, see, the way this whole thing is structured and the way these statements are delivered to you from the Associated Press or from the judge through the Associated Press is meant to make you believe that Donald Trump is trying to stop these people's freedom of speech, or their First Amendment, we'll put them that way, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, whatever you want, because, you know, the far left, that is a cult. Democrats are tantamount to a cult, essentially. So this just blows my freaking mind. That's not what Donald Trump is doing at all. He is stopping grant money from going out. He's not stopping them from doing anything. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. They're just not going to receive federal funds for doing so. But the corporate press, they don't tell you that. They just want you to believe that Orange Man fascist. And that's it. That's what they want you to believe. The San Francisco AIDS Foundation, one of the plaintiffs, said in 2023 it received a 5-year grant from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to expand and enhance sexual health services, including the prevention of sexually transmitted infections. Oh, now they're putting well, this is what the money is really for, but it's not. By the way, shocker. The 1.3 million project specifically targets communities disproportionately affected by sexual health disparities. And I wonder why they're disproportionately affected by sexual health disparities. That's a bunch of word salad nonsense, don't you think? If you engage in sexual activity that is high risk for STDs, for crying out loud, I mean, that's like telling the government that if you walk through a field with landmines in it and you get your leg blown off, that they have to pay for it. Even though you knew, and it's clearly posted right there, it says landmines, you walk through it anyway, just because you wanted to express yourself. And you have the freedom to do so. You have the right to express yourself however the hell you want to. And if expressing yourself means walking through a minefield, then you do that. If you get grant money for doing so, hey, it is what it is. Insane. But in April, the CDC informed the nonprofit that it must immediately terminate all programs, personnel, activities, or contracts that promote DEI or gender ideology. Yeah, if it's a governmental function, yes, the government cannot promote racism, for goodness sakes. It's insane. But if this is a nonprofit we're talking about here, that's not true. That is absolutely not true. But, you know, it is what it is. Go ahead, violate the law if you want to, but you'll probably be arrested, hopefully. President Donald Trump has signed a flurry of executive orders since taking office in January, including ones to roll back transgender protections and stop DEI programs. What are these transgender protections? I wonder. Nobody can ever explain that to me. Every time this is brought up, I ask the comment section, hey, what are these transgender rights that they get that they don't already have? That's what I want to know. What are these so-called rights? And if they do have if there is some magical set of rights that they get, how come they get more rights than everybody else? I don't find that fair. That's not equitable. What are you talking about over here, left? Why do certain, just because they're disproportionately affected by society, for crying out loud, due to their own choices and actions in life, they get these extra set of rights that nobody else seems to get? Nobody can ever answer that. Ever. Nobody has ever put a comment down below that explains why or a set of rights. It's insane. It's because it don't exist. That's why. I know why. I'm being semantic here. Plaintiffs say that Congress, and not the president, has the power to condition how federal funds are used, and that the executive orders restrict free speech rights. They don't restrict free speech rights. That's more like freedom of expression rights. But the executive branch does have control over where that money goes. It is the branch of the government that decides who gets the money. Congress doesn't decide that. Congress apportions certain amounts of money to certain departments, and then those departments apportion where that money goes. Once again, unless it is specific legislation for a specific cause. But, I follow Congress pretty heavily, and I don't recall ever hearing about any legislation that is a specific grant to a specific group. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so. But, I still can't get over that one line where, basically that judge is saying, if the government deems a certain ideology dangerous, and if they're getting government grants, the government can't stop that for some reason. If all of a sudden this group turns radical and starts going on a terrorist binge, for goodness sakes, the government must give them money, must continue to give them money. Once again, folks, like, the DEI stuff is illegal. It has always been illegal. I say always. Since 1965, it has been illegal. And they are trying to bring back segregation. They are trying to bring back racism because they need a civil rights movement. That's why this whole transgender thing, it doesn't make any sense. They are making up civil rights causes to get out there and activate themselves, and get out there and promote blah, 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 blah. We got to do this. We got to do that. We need to be the freedom fighters, the social justice warriors of our generation, by God. This is all to serve a virtue, which is another sin, by the way. Oh my goodness, these people are insane. They really are. Like, I just don't get the ideology. I don't get any of it because none of it makes any sense. None of it logically lines up with reality. And blows my freaking mind. And these judges, how can they rule in favor of forcing the government to dole out money to a group that is breaking the law? That just doesn't make sense to me, but I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea. Maybe that's how the law works. You never know, but I think that's all I got on this one, y'all. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. Whew, blows my mind, y'all. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And y'all do me a big favor. Click that join button. Sign up. Become a member. Help this channel grow and flourish, for crying out loud. And outside of that, y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.